Hello and welcome to Books and Beyond. My name is Jimmy Bennett. I'm your host. Books and Beyond, the show where we help people personify their aspirations. Before we get started today, I'd like to just once again give a little shout out to the Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association, CAPA. We meet the third Monday of every month at the Groton Public Library at 6:30, though unfortunately the next 2 months we will not be at the library due to June 19th holiday and renovations at the library in August. But it's a great networking, it's a great, anything to do with the written word. I encourage anybody who wants to write or wants to have anything to do with writing to show up. It's great networking, good inspiration, and you meet a lot of nice people, good people. We had a little bit of a slowdown during the COVID, of course. Now things are starting to come back and people are starting to come back. And I also want to encourage all of our old members to start coming back. You know, it's time to come back and see what everybody's been up to. So anyways, I want to get to my guest today. Very special guest, one of my favorite people in the whole world, Rose Young.
Oh, thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
Rose is a great writer, also in the mystery genre. And first, I want to talk about your first book. Mm-hmm. All right? Because that'll lead us into your second.
Yes.
So tell us about the first.
Sure. Rose's Wine and Murder in the City of Steeples. I published in 2017. So 5 years since, I have now brought out Love of Art and Murder. And it's the same characters, Georgie, Roxanne, Detective Dan Morrison, and Roxanne's husband, Fire Chief Sampson, all return in this next murder-solving mystery.
Yeah.
Based in this one, Love of Art and Murder is based in Mystic and in New London and Southeast Connecticut. We also move over to a museum in New Haven, and we go to Boston on the train with one of my characters.
All
So it's a fun mystery, a little bit of humor, but also plenty of facts, which I love to add into a story because I think it's fun to learn while you're reading. Yet you also get a tour of our area. Right. And the many locations that are beautiful and lovely because both cities are waterfront properties. Both have the trains, the boats, and the highways nearby, which make it very easy for villains to move in and out.
See, that's one thing I'd like because, I'm sort of in the, we have sort of the same genre, but I'm in a different time period. I do the beginning of the century. Yeah. Beginning of the 19th or 20th century, 1900s. So, but I'm the same way. I like putting real people, real places, real things. I mean, so it's like could have happened, didn't happen, but could have happened.
That's right.
And that's what I want people to get out of it when they read.
Yeah.
I want them to think, well, is that really happened?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely great the way you weave it into this modern age.
Yes.
Now, do you find, one thing I got to say, I'm curious about this because sometimes I think I chicken out a little bit by writing in the past because you don't have modern forensics, the modern sciences, chemicals and forensics and all the rest of it.
Right.
So you can get away with a lot more.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Seems harder to me, but yes.
Well, yeah, I guess, but to me it seems almost easier. It's like
Okay.
how do you beat these modern crime solving?
True.
And how do you kind of do that? How'd you?
I literally research every aspect. So I have a new character. She's introduced in the last book. Her name is Dr. Angela Storm, and she's the medical examiner.
Okay.
And her pathology, her work is something I had to research. So I had to study other real pathologists, coroners, morticians in the industry to understand what do they know and how do they use the new technology. And there's a lot of software out there that now you can mock up a scene because you can use lasers to find out in which direction did a bullet go, or a knife, and the splatter of blood, etc. But and my books are generally not gory. They are very. I just brush over what has occurred, mostly, so that the story moves everything along. But yeah, I love doing the research. The research is the fun part for me.
I find, because I've sort of done the same thing in my last few stories, and actually a series I'm working on now. Forensics is just in its beginning. I mean, it just really starting to, I mean, fingerprints are really just starting to become like the norm.
Yeah.
But I read some pretty fascinating stuff about, well, you know, not to be gory, but like decomposition and you know, things like that. Did you find a lot of that?
Yeah, you find out about things that how they came to discover it, and now how it's developed, and of course the computers, etc., take it to the nth degree.
Right.
You know, so now, I mean, we have drones. We can fly over a scene and observe it from another angle, which is helpful for a detective or the forensics.
I never really thought about that, but I guess
Yeah.
it gives you a whole nother dimension.
Yes.
Than when you're walking around looking, you know what I mean?
That's right. You can
Wow.
look bird's eye view from above
Yep.
and get a sense of, you know, oh, well, okay, if it came from that direction, how did this happen?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's fun.
Nice. So, Lee, you're going to read a little bit about.
Yeah.
I would like you to read a little bit about the first your book, the first chapter. Or
Sure. I have a snippet from the first chapter.
I want everybody to get a feel for this before we.
Sure. Yeah.
move
Yeah.
on.
The summer morning breeze off the river caught a blonde wisp of Marilyn's hair, touched her cheek, and kissed her hot pink lips. Yet her lovely green eyes were frozen by her partner in death, Athena's spear. Her latest sculpture of Athena, whose golden shield has caught the morning's rays, glints toward the street 3 stories below. Officer Demi Acevedo, the police department's forensic photographer, has viewed the scene from below, but now takes a deep breath as she steps on the balcony to see Marilyn's vintage dress waver in the warm August breeze. She clicks away, but suddenly stops with a gasp. Her years of experience in crime scene photography did not prepare her for this death scene. Marilyn is part of her sculpture. Has this been staged? Athena's spear pierced Marilyn's back. The goddess of war and wisdom was in an action pose. One leg was forward in a lunge, and her right hand held an authentic spear at waist height, ready to jab a rival. Unfortunately, the spear held Marilyn in place. And so Marilyn Maroney is the main character that is introduced, who is murdered.
Right.
And so we learn a little bit more about her. I go back in time to give some reference to who she is, which is a very, very popular artist and recently known within the last 6 months nationwide. So her art is hot.
Yep, coming
and
up.
Ready, you know, people are ready to buy it. And yet now here she is on her balcony of her studio, pierced by Athena's spear, her sculpture that she made.
Oh, wow. Nice, I like that.
So why? What
Yeah.
happened? And at first it seems accidental, but as they progress, they find out more details and more people are involved.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, were you always interested in the arts, sculpture, painting?
I actually grew up drawing and painting since a child, but at 11, my mom put me in regular art classes after school.
Oh.
And so I took regular arts classes, became very interested in it, and then I went to art school at New England School of Art and Design in Boston.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
where I graduated
See,
from.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I graduated from there, and one of my loves, was art history, and I learned how to understand why a master's work of
Right.
art was good, and what was it about the composition and the color that made it great art.
Right.
And so I teach the reader that just through the eyes of the characters as we go through the story.
Well,
and
that's-
we visit museums, we look at art, and the detective is not interested in art, but the medical examiner is, and they have to go to New Haven to get some lab test results. So he takes the road trip with her to pick up the results, and they're having to wait once they get there. And next door is the New Haven Center for British Art. And so they walk in there, and he's like, I'm not into museums. And she says, let me teach you a little bit about how
Right.
to walk through a museum. And so there's a nice scene of them
that's
doing that.
That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
See, now that's one thing. The one thing I've really always really admired you for was your research.
Thank you.
Are very. I know you do a lot of research. You do very thorough.
It's a mountain of
Yeah.
paperwork
I'm
that
horrible
I
at it.
probably don't use 7/10 of it, know,
Right.
really. And
You
so
just
I'm
pick the little
swimming
nuggets
in
out
it,
of the, Yep. Yep.
which is overwhelming at times. And sometimes I think that's why it takes me so long to write a story, is because I'm going through all the paperwork, trying to find, and the research, trying to find what's the best way to tell this story. Yeah.
Well, the reason why I say that too is I admire it because even me, I've written stuff and then found out more things afterwards.
Yeah.
And went, wow, I would have put that in if I'd known that. I would have, that would have been I could have changed this, but.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I know with your first book, you hit a lot of vineyards.
Yes.
Now, you
yes,
see,
yes.
that's research. Okay, I like
Yes.
that. All right,
So you like that research?
That's the good research, okay? That's the fun research. But I want you to tell me a little bit more about doing this research, and we have...
Yeah. Here, let me look a little bit at my notes, because I made some notes for myself to keep track. Yeah. First of all, when I have an idea, it's like a movie runs through my
Right.
mind. I see the scenes, I hear the dialogue, and I just start writing, okay? But when I run low on that information, then it's time to research. And one thing is, I might just go out and walk about and get into the neighborhoods of Mystic and New London and these museums, et cetera, to kind of gather information. But I also go out and talk to experts in the field, such as at galleries. Vinnie Scarano is the president of the Hygienic Art Gallery in New London. I spoke to him. He told me great stories that I incorporated into the novel. Then I've got Jeannie and Steve Siegel, who manage the Guard Art Center in New London, and they graciously gave Joanne, a videographer friend of mine, and I a tour. And so there's 2 chapters in the book that introduce the reader to the Guard, and a big event called Celebrate the Arts that's at the Guard. And so I'm able to describe in great detail because
Right.
I'm using often real locations.
Right.
Yeah, so
That's
that's
great.
fun. Yeah.
That's great. And you got some pictures that I want to see.
Yeah.
Let's see where your little travels have taken you.
Yeah. This is the Mystic downtown. Here is the Bascule Bridge, which is a 100-year anniversary this past year, and this is where a detective from Mystic presents to the press a murder has happened in Mystic and what the details are that he knows. This is a picture of on Mason's Island.
Island, yeah.
And it's out to the harbor, Poggy Bay, and that's where the characters also reside in the story. And here's the entrance to Ender's Island, and I call it Edgar's Island in my book, where we also have scenes that occur there. Sea Swirl is where another incident occurs in the story.
Oh, all right.
In Mystic. And here is a picture of New London, the city of steeples, from the water. This is the Hygienic Art Gallery, and here's one of the major painted murals in New London. This is a mural done by my friend Troy Zosny and Michael McNabbie. It is a very popular New London mural. It's about 35 feet wide. And here's the Guard Art Center, a photo of the outside of the building, and I think we have an inside. Yeah, here's the inside of the Guard Art Center, which is a beautiful, gorgeous, fantastic 1926 theater performance hall. And here's the Slater Museum, where two of my characters go there on their own to the very famous 150-year-old sculpture casts of the famous classic sculptures around the world are held in this museum, and everyone should see it because it's fabulous. I think I have an image of the interior. There it is. So many of these sculptures are, as I said, in famous places around the world. These are casts of those sculptures, and these are from the Parthenon, the Vatican, and Greece, etc. Very nicely done to see this in person. And that's it.
Right.
Yeah, this is where my characters walk through, and I get to describe a little bit about what they're seeing through their eyes.
So do you get the scene in your head after you've taken your walks or walked around, or do you have a general idea?
I think when I'm starting the story, I know I want a museum curator. I want somebody who knows about the arts. And so if they live in Mystic on Mason's Island, which my character Carl Rubens and his mother Isidore Rubens, they live on Mason's Island. So they go to the Mystic Seaport to see the artwork that is there. And so they frequent many of these famous places, and the Slater is one of the ones that Carl Rubens admires in a big way. So it's hard for me to say because I've been to these places, and later I have the idea I want to do a book on art and murder and mystery, but I also have artist friends, and so those artist friends inspire me. And I interviewed quite a few artists.
Right, I know that,
for the story. So I feel like I'm always weaving,
Right, yeah.
a lot of details together while I have the story idea in mind.
Yep.
Yeah, and in fact, this story was inspired by a true art crime. So this true art crime is still unsolved today, and I solve it in my story.
Oh.
And so I'm not going to reveal what that true art crime is. It is a secret that you will have to discover when you read the story. But it is very famous. It's very recognizable. And when you know, you go, oh, okay, I got it now.
All right.
But it is still unsolved, and it is something that very much everyone would like to have resolved because it's missing famous art.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So it's fun.
Well, that's, I think that's, like I said, I just admire that kind of, research. I really do.
Thank you.
And I love the way it's a beautiful area and the way you tied all the towns together.
Yes, because I do love the area so much. I love the history, and I try to pepper history within the story. And, like I said, the Lyman Allen Museum in New London, the curator there gave me a tour of the museum so that I could be very familiar with it when I sat down. So, for instance, I knew I wanted to write about it, but I didn't know what I was going to write.
Right.
So I go there with her, get the tour, and then I come back and I sit down. Well, who's going to go there? Which character? And how am I going to set that up? And I go several times to visit and see who's there. By even seeing some of the people and how they view the art, it helps me make the story better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
No, like I said, I admire the way you do that. It's, I mean, you take your time. It's
I
been
do.
5 years since the last novel
Yes,
came out.
yes,
You know?
I do.
So,
Yeah, it's kind of, I worked very hard at it for the last year and a half, full time. But the prior 3 years, it's part time, and I'm gathering
Right.
the information and trying to sort it out. And I'm writing chapters, but the chapters are not finished. They're just parts of and
Yeah.
trying to get my sequencing down.
Right.
Which is difficult with a mystery.
That's
with
people
a mystery.
don't realize that. I know from myself from personal experience. There's many times when I was on chapter 13, I had to go back to chapter 2,
Yep.
and put something in to make sure it fit in chapter 13.
You bet.
Like I had it in my head what was going to happen. Then I
Yeah.
wrote it, and then I went, yeah, but I'm the only guy who knows that's why it happened. So
Well, that's it.
You have to go back, and people don't realize it's a lot. And I tell you, you do a great job with it.
Well, and because we know the beginning, the middle, and the end, we have to stay on track with where's the reader
Right.
at, because it's like, okay, sometimes I notice that I gave too much information too soon.
Right.
And
So it looks obvious in the end.
yeah, so you
right.
can't. You have to
Yeah.
remove information so that the
Yep.
mystery stays intact, and yet not too much surprise them. Like, oh, I never would have guessed that. Where it has to make sense.
Well, and I think too, let's face it, if you write a drama or a comedy or something like that, people read it. Oh, okay. But mystery, people like to pick them apart.
Yeah.
People they
Oh,
want
yeah.
to see you screw up.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
want to catch you. They want to catch you. You know what I mean? And so I've learned that you have to really be careful about how you phrase things, what you say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
You know how it is. People they don't have double dip chocolate caramel cones and sea swirl. It's like, all right, okay, you got me.
Yes.
And marketing, that's now I want to get to that quick because you're a fantastic marketer. Now I know you're out doing events.
I do
all
the
the
best
time?
I can,
Yeah.
but I also try to, I offer doing a book event at places, but sometimes I'm invited and I'm surprised because
Yeah.
it's an honor to be invited. The Hygienic Art Gallery invited me. I was there April 22nd, and it was nice. We had about 15 or more people, and it went very well. And it's perfect because the Hygienic is right in the location of the scenes of the story.
Right, yeah.
In the story, my major art gallery where Marilyn Maroney is found is in a vacant lot next to the art park, which is part of the Hygienic.
Right.
And so I positioned the building there, and then the Velvet Muse, which is the outdoor performance venue, is next to the Dahlia, and the Hygienic is right there. So it was perfect for them to invite me to
Right.
tell my story. Yeah, yeah.
But I think that's great because when you read books, I love, when I read something and I see a local,
Yeah.
something that I know, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? It just adds a little something to it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's just, especially when you, like I say, when you say, oh, I've been there, or oh, I've seen that, or I know where that is.
Yeah, yeah, because I've got locations like Muddy Waters, Washington Street Coffee House in New
Yeah.
London. I'll mention many of the art galleries, and then of course here in Mystic, Avery Chapel in Groton is got a really good scene.
Yeah.
So it's fun because you can actually take a tour. You could read the book and go on a tour with it, throughout the
Right.
areas and get to know where the characters had been and see some of the things
And
they
you
saw.
find most people were receptive to you?
So far, yes.
Yeah. I mean, nobody was like, no, I don't.
No.
You can't use our name, or you can't.
No, I changed most of the
Yeah.
names, yeah. But the, like Muddy Waters and Washington Street Coffee House are very happy to be in my first
Right,
book,
yeah.
and so, of course, in the second, too.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm promoting them,
Yeah.
and it's a fun place to go.
Yep.
So,
No, I know some places just have that little,
yeah,
Really,
but that's okay.
Yeah.
They're protective. They
Yeah.
want their privacy.
On this day and age, I guess you have to be,
everybody
gotta be careful.
yeah.
Everybody's got their lawyer out, so, So now, are you going to go another one on this?
Right now, this book is wrapping up a lot of loose ends, so that the characters are kind of settled. So we'll let that lie for a while. I've got some other ideas of stories that I'm going to write.
Good.
So we'll wait and see. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing. I'm working on another series, another William Gillette series, but I'm thinking, you know what, maybe it's time to go in another direction.
Well, you
try
know what
something else.
happened to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle?
Well,
He
that's true.
stopped.
Yeah.
And everybody said, no, we
Yeah.
want more.
But he needed the money too, so he went back. You know what I
True,
mean? So,
true. But he did want Sherlock Holmes to die.
Yeah, I know. You get tired of it sometimes. You know what I mean? You just
Yeah. Yeah.
Though I do enjoy it. I do enjoy writing.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
fun.
I do it because I enjoy it. Really,
You
know
have
what I
to.
mean?
That
Yeah.
if you're not.
So where can we find your new book?
Okay, so the new book is in many locations. Bank Square Books has it in Mystic. So does No Other Books Like This in Mystic. I've got my book at the Hygienic Art Gallery. They're selling it. The Book Barn has me in their local section of their bookstore. And my books do very well there. He says I'm one of the top fiction sellers
Nice.
in the local section. And the Red House Cultural Arts Center, it's in the Story, as well as you can buy my book there. So there's many places.
And
yeah.
you got-
and
and-
online,
and
Amazon,
Amazon and-
and
Yep.
all of that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Are you going to try to do an audiobook with this one?
I'm not now because the prices doubled.
Oh.
So I don't know if you knew, but an audiobook typically was around $4,000. So now to have one produce is about $8,000.
That's too much
and that's
schlepping.
a lot.
That's too much schlepping.
Yeah.
Too many books for me.
So I have to
Yeah.
sell a lot more books
Right.
before I decide to do
Yeah.
an audiobook on this one. But this book is in audio, and of
Yeah.
course, the guy who did it, Eric Aldeidi, did an excellent job.
Right.
So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for
Thank
being on
you,
the
Jim.
show. It was great to have you again.
Thank you so much.
And looking forward to seeing you at the new Kappa meetings
Yeah.
coming up. And
Yeah.
hopefully we'll do a few more events together.
Yeah.
We always had a lot of fun doing that.
You bet.
so-
Hey, the Rose Arts Festival.
Yeah, that's coming
is
up. Yeah,
having an
that's right.
event.
Rose Arts Festival.
Yeah.
There's going to be a Kappa booth and a few other local artists. So
Yeah.
put that on your calendar.
Yes,
All right.
July 1st,
Yep.
11 to 6 in Norwich. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
July 1st?
July 1st. It's
11
a
to 6,
Saturday.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank
you,
you.
Jim.
That's all for today. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time on Books and Beyond.